All right, welcome to the webinar. Today, I'm happy to announce and to be joined by CJ Tan and Ross Lair. I think Chris will be joining us at some point. But we've got a fantastic webinar for you today. We're talking about success with Viva Topics, step by step. And this is really designed around being a real world, hey, what's it really like working with Viva Topics, and give you some tips and tricks. This webinar is sponsored by Wand Taxonomies. And before we get started, I want to introduce the panel today. And let's actually start from top to bottom. CJ, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone. I'm CJ Tan, and I'm the lead product manager for Viva Topics on the engineering team. I'm really glad to be here.
Awesome. And soon we will have Chris. I don't know if Chris has joined yet, but he's a very busy individual. He's got a lot on his plate. So he's the director of product marketing for Viva Topics for Microsoft. I'm Joel Olison, your host today, your MC. I'm a Microsoft MVP and Microsoft Regional Director. In fact, I've got a little slide here. I've been working with Microsoft products for a long time. I actually spent 10 years at Microsoft working both in IT and in marketing and the IT product management side. I even spent some time as a contractor way back at slate.com. But I've spent 20 plus years in the industry at a number of Fortune 500s. In fact, I currently work with Sony Interactive, but I've worked with a number of different Fortune 500 companies and a number of different Microsoft Gold partners. And one of my passions that everybody kind of knows about me, those who know me, is I'm passionate about travel. Love to travel. I've got 8 more countries left to go. And yeah. And to those of you who are looking to connect with me, LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me and connect. I'm kind of an open connector for people in the industry. And you can find me on LinkedIn. And let me introduce our sponsor and one of our key speakers here today, Ross Lair, from the CEO of Wand.
Well, thank you very much, Joel. My name is Ross Lair. I guess I'm the CEO of Wand. Right. Our company has been building taxonomies for about 30 years, and I was reflecting the other day. This all started in the 8th grade when I was going to Hill Junior High School. Helen Henry was a teacher that offered a class called semantics, the meaning of words, where words came from, the context of words. And ever since that class, I've been fascinated, with semantics, with vocabularies, taxonomies, ontologies. And that being said, it's a pleasure, being able to talk with everybody today.
It's awesome to have you, Ross. I don't know anybody who is more passionate about taxonomies than you are. And it's fascinating, the conversations we've had over the last few years. I've known Ross for many years. Even back in the early days when SharePoint first was introduced with taxonomies and term sets and content types, Ross was there. And we'll hear more about the taxonomy service they provide. And I'm going to hand this over to CJ to talk and introduce us to Viva and what all this amazing stuff that Microsoft's built.
Well, I think this is actually me, Joel.
Okay, great, Chris. Thanks. And if you
Sorry,
want
folks,
to share the screen,
for some reason, Teams,
you want me to drive, I can do that.
Yeah, Teams had me muted for the first couple of minutes, but glad to be here. Chris McNulty, Director of Product Marketing on the Microsoft 365 team. We are responsible for our content services solutions, which are inclusive of technologies like SharePoint and OneDrive and Stream and Syntax and Viva Topics. So someone seems to have pivoted to a Macintosh.
Let me.
Great.
There you go.
So the roots of what has become Viva Topics go back several years to some of the internal research projects that Microsoft was developing and planning, and we made some announcements about them in 2019. And then the pandemic happened, and it really kind of led to a rethink for, not just how we intended to create innovation and deliver it to customers, but created not just an opportunity, but I think a responsibility for Microsoft to address what became forefront needs, kind of driven by the pandemic. We've all seen the changes in work styles that have happened over the past 2 years. Instantly moving everything remote, hybrid work, return to work. But all of those pressures at one level have really accelerated some longer trends in the market about digitization, automation, move to cloud, and being able to do more with kind of the power and capacity that you have when your information estate is driven by Azure-based data centers around the world. What does that mean in terms of responsibility? One of the things that we've learned through the research that Microsoft does, through our work trend index, through talking to customers, looking at the use of our service and experiencing interactions with analysts and the rest of our community, is that people have been tremendously flexible and adaptable throughout all of these changes, but also that people are not machines. And people sprint and they need time to rest. They need to be connected and they need time for themselves. And all of these changes and shifts have seen some unintended consequences in kind of the character of digital work. I think many of us saw, in 2020, our calendars filled up with blue bars, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And the cumulative effect of all of those things can have some negative impacts on issues like worker retention, happiness, and engagement. One of the things that we've really taken to heart here is the billions of minutes that the world spends inside of Microsoft tools like Teams every day, I think create the responsibility for Microsoft to be able to provide systems that help balance the needs of the organization with the needs of the individual. And we've found that organizations that put that primary focus on the individual, not just the team and not just the organization, see tremendous benefits in traditional measures like employee retention, happiness, and profitability. Over the past year, we hopefully have been seeing the decline of this pandemic, and that certainly seems to be within sight. What is not completely understood yet is what the aftermath looks like. We've been seeing a lot of information about what's been called the Great Reshuffle or the Great Resignation. And based on Microsoft research, nearly 20% of the workforce has changed jobs in the past year. And more than half of the younger side of the workforce is about to make a change, either in career or in employer. We think that the organizations that modernize not just their physical estate, but their digital estate during a return to work are going to be best positioned to weather all of these changes as they come forward. That's why we created Viva. Viva is a platform to enhance employee experience, and it's delivered through 5 modules. Originally, we had just Viva Topics, and we've added to it over the past year, with Viva Goals being the most recent addition to the Viva family. So each is designed to address a different aspect of the employee experience, and each is conceived as an open system that plugs into that Teams framework. We know that employee experience is relatively new in the conversations with Microsoft, but we know it's been top of mind for our customers and for our partners for a long time. And so we conceive of Viva all up as being a system that allows you to mix and match the best solutions to drive a great experience for your employees, whether those are solutions from Microsoft, solutions from partners, or the solutions that you yourself have created. And also being able to bring those together into what we would call the flow of work, which means making sure that those experiences are pervasive and persistent as you move through M365. Being able to get access to all of those experiences in as simple a fashion as possible. So one of those key areas for us is Viva Topics. Viva Topics, I like to describe as magic. It takes a look at all of the content that your employees are generating and all of the work patterns as they are expressed through the Microsoft graph, the trillions of signals we get about who connects with whom, what are they connecting about, how are they interacting, how are they meeting, provide a powerful matrix that we're able to step into and use AI to determine which are the subjects of interest that are most common and most relevant to your organization. And we call those subjects of interest topics. AI will lay down that initial map of what topics exist inside the organization, sort of a machine-driven first draft of a Wikipedia, but a Wikipedia that's not built by scouring the internet and lots of random contributions, but from the content as expressed inside of your organization by your employees. Once done, Viva Topics allows your experts to review, curate, and approve that information before it becomes delivered to employees through the apps that they use every day, typically in the form of highlights that show up inside of communications in places like Outlook or Teams, on SharePoint pages, inside Office apps or Microsoft Search. And just hovering over a highlight brings up, as you can see in this screenshot, what we call a topic card. That's a capsule summary of all the information that we've aggregated through Viva Topics that becomes available to you. You don't have to search for it. That knowledge finds you in the ways that you're working already. In our journeys with Viva Topics, what we've seen so far, some of the most common places where our customers are plugging Viva Topics in, there are many, many patterns that we've seen, far more than we anticipated when we originally created the offering. First and foremost, being able to establish that shared vocabulary. Every organization has its own code, has its own acronyms, has its own names for things, and being able to centralize all of that creates a substrate that makes it much simpler for people as they move into the organization or into new roles, being able to quickly make sure that everyone has a common frame of reference. One of the things we like to talk about when people add a hashtag to a communication, a hashtag allows me to automatically tag a Viva topic inside a communication. It's a very simple message to say, write less, say more. So without having to write a lengthy explanation or attach a bunch of documents or ask people to run searches or hunt for links, just that hashtag allows me to invoke all of that AI-driven content for people to build that vocabulary. The second area we see that's fairly common is making sure that existing experts in the organization can have their knowledge shared and disseminated as broadly as possible. One of our customers, Northumbrian Water, has gone through a number of journeys with this. And one of the things that they found is that the experts that they have aren't the experts they thought they had. Traditionally, many of us assume that the people who write the most, speak the most, act the loudest must be the experts. But diversity shows up in all manners, and sometimes the best experts on a topic are people who have information that may not be widely known. And Viva Topics helps us capture that information through ordinary work practices and get that shared so that the entire workforce can tap into the best knowledge driven by the combination of AI and human expertise. And finally, in all sorts of employee journeys, into an organization, into projects, into roles, helping accelerate that time to becoming fully productive. Many of our customers traditionally report it can take 3 to 6 months for someone to get up to speed on a new project or new role. And every week that we can shave that time down for full knowledge is a tremendous correlation to the productivity gains that they'll see. So that's just a little bit of what we've seen about what Viva Topics is and why we've shaped it the way we have. I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, CJ, to kind of walk through Viva Topics in a little bit more detail.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, that was a really great overview. What I've summarized here is sort of or put on a slide here is sort of the things that Chris had talked about. When we think about what's in product today, we kind of think of the capabilities and the features in these 5 categories. One really around the admin configuration. How are you controlling what is actually available in what's actually going to be available for topics to do that discovery, to do that identification of topics. We can control who can create, edit, and manage those topics, and you can also really understand and have the knowledge admin configure configure the system the way that they want it to. You can exclude certain topics and really exclude certain resources as well. Then around the identification of topics. So this is AI taking that first pass on looking at that content in the SharePoint sites and really seeing what's important for this organization. For these topics, what are the descriptions that we have? Can we find alternate names? Can we extract those files, pages, and sites that are really good resources for somebody to understand that topic? And then build those relationships, very specifically those relationships between people, and more importantly, the relationships that you have between topics. So now you've been able to build this network where you can actually understand who are the people in the organization and how they impact the work or the topics that you work on. There are capabilities around managing those topics, being able to view all the topics that you have access to in a management view so that you can actually triage them. You can confirm the ones that make sense for your organization, edit the ones that need human contribution, and also even remove some that really aren't as important as the AI system may have thought. And for each individual, viewing those topics where you're suggested as a close connection and really managing how those topics appear for everybody else in your organization. The last two items are really around the users, the people that are using the system, using that knowledge. We have the human contribution side of things and also that topic discovery. So human contribution is critical for Viva Topics in that we are actually getting that information and knowledge from the people that work in the organization. So you can give feedback, you can edit that first draft that Viva Topics made, and you can also, as Chris had mentioned, share that knowledge using that hashtag, doing that on the SharePoint page as well as through Outlook. And lastly, topic discovery is really about our ability to help you find that knowledge while you're working. So there are capabilities that automatically bring that knowledge to you in SharePoint and Outlook and in search. And then there are places where we want to make sure that if somebody's referenced that information, you have an easy way to get to that. For example, like the topic roll-up that we have in the Outlook app. So if we move to the next item. Thanks. I'm just going to walk through about 5 features that I feel like are really critical and are new that have just come out that could help with the adoption of Viva Topics and share these highlights with you. So one of the main things that we have is that ability to build on your term store. So we recognize that organizations have really spent a lot of investment on building their term store. And in a lot of cases, they're using these terms very similar to what Topics is doing. So what we want to do here is actually use those terms as a way to seed topic discovery. So what I mean by that is being able to select a term, have those documents that are already associated with that and tagged by that term, and have that be the place where AI starts to recognize, what is this topic? Can I extract a description from these documents that have been associated with the tag term? Can I actually help to identify people that are important that have been contributing to that? So then really we start to be able to enrich the topic as it enters that Viva Topic system. And then in this next feature, we also understand that one of the things that Viva Topics needs, sorry, Joel, I think I'm missing the slide forward view.
I don't know if you want just a little, there we go. Oh. Is that too far?
Yes, no, that's perfect. I think I'm just, okay, that's perfect. So one of the things we've heard is for Viva Topics to work, what we really want is to encompass the information in all of your organization, right? So the more information that Viva Topics has to identify these topics, the better it will do, because it's really trying to encompass all the information in your organization. But one thing that is really important is that there are going to be things that are sensitive or highly confidential in an organization's content. So from this perspective, we've introduced this advanced setting within the topic configuration in order for you to actually identify these sensitivity labels that you actually want to exclude content from. So this is a reuse of something that you may already be using. And so then what you can do is give the topic discovery or topic identification a lot of information, but really ensure that you're not going to expose something that's going to be sensitive, and select those items. And this selection impacts both the files and the sites of your selection. Move to the next. All right. And now we've also made improvements on topic indexing. So we're really investing in analytics on topic indexing and usage. These capabilities increase the transparency of what that system is doing and give the admins and the knowledge managers an indication of how well Viva Topics is working to improve their users' experience. So we've really looked at the analytics also to aim to demonstrate the value of Viva Topics and its ability to connect people to knowledge when you're working. So that first capability is a simple chart on the Manage Topics view, which just shows the overall suggested, confirmed, publish, and remove topics over time. It gives you feedback to what the users and the knowledge managers and the end users are doing and can influence the topics in the system. And this space will continue going forward to be a place where knowledge managers can get information that helps them validate and triage topics. The next set of capabilities that are available now is around the search and intelligence insights for Viva Topics. And within here, right now, you've probably noticed a lot of times when you start up Viva Topics, there's not a lot of information. And this is because it takes some time for the AI to index the content that you've provided. So it was empty, but now we're giving you some feedback on what's happening. We're showing you what sites are being processed, what files have been processed, and then giving you a tally of what it's discovering. So the goal here is to really give you a sense of the health of how that topic indexing is working and give you some progress into that discovery so you can see what's going on there. And then this space you'll see keeps growing going forward as we introduce more usage analytics for that knowledge admin so that they can start making decisions on how best to configure topic identification and topic configuration for their organization. And now this next set of capabilities is really around managing topics at scale. So this is coming. So the screenshot you see here is actually not in production just yet, but I wanted to share it because it's really coming soon, and we've got this in a few early adopter customers that have given us good feedback. So the first thing to notice here is just basically a revamp of the managed topics views that you see now in product. And the thing that we've done here is really combined all the topics in one infinitely scrollable list. So this is really important here. You can see that the pivots that we had originally had around confirmed and suggested and published are now just a column here. So now you can view all the topics that you have in an organization very clearly, looking at the quality across each one, which ones have the right impressions, and then filter and sort them as a group, as opposed to what we do now where things are segmented. So this is really seen to in our early feedback that we've gotten to improve the experience for knowledge managers in order for them to organize and actually elevate the topics that they feel like they need to pay attention to. So there's more to come as we manage topics at scale, but this is something that I feel like is really changing how knowledge managers are actually working with topics in the organization to get it in a state and get it in a place where they feel confident on the AI and confident about the contributions that they have. And the last feature that I want to draw your attention to is that we do have topics available in Outlook Web Access now. So now there's two things that we really wanted to highlight is that you can use this in two ways. As you're creating or authoring your email, you can share information about those topics a lot easier just by hashtagging that topic. The receiver will get that context for the topic. You don't need to have a lot of text to explain what's going on. They can deep dive into the topic as much as they want, or just get an overview so they can understand your email. And then we've got this topic rollup that does not just summarizes the manually referenced topics, but also pulls in the ones that AI has detected as well. So this is our way of helping you helping you so you don't have to tag every single thing that you want to share, so that your recipients can get more context for your email. So those were the things that I really wanted to share on what's available now if you haven't used or seen them before. And I think I'm passing on to Ross.
Thanks
CJ,
so much.
that was great. That was great. Something over a period that we've been working with taxonomies, ontologies, so on and so forth. People ask me, what's the hard ROI? What's the soft ROI? And I say to people, I have no idea. But this fellow Lou Platt, the former CEO of HP, probably said it best. If only HP knew what HP knows, we'd be 3 times more productive. And what Lou is saying is we've got a tremendous amount of knowledge within our organization, knowledge in our data, knowledge in our documents, knowledge within the brains of each individual within our organization. And if we can't find that, if we can't find the people, the data, the documents, okay, where that knowledge resides, then that knowledge is fast asleep. And what Lou wanted to do, suggested to every organization, surface that knowledge so we can find it, we can use it, we can build upon it. We don't need to recreate it, and we don't need to frustrate people within the organization when they can't find things that they know, or find experts, okay, who they know the answer to questions. There's a fellow that I've been reading, is the author of 1,000 Brains. He's an artificial intelligence expert. He happens to have been the inventor of Palm Pilot, Jeff Hawkins. And what he writes is, model building is the essence of intelligence. Now, I want you to keep that, okay, thought as we go to the next slide. Artificial intelligence is an interesting term. It's a lot of, whatever you want it to mean, it means. I like to explain it to people in the following fashion. We inform the human brain with knowledge models. I have a 5-month-old granddaughter. Her parents are going to teach her knowledge models about colors, about numbers, about letters. She's going to go to school, knowledge models, mathematics, science, geography, on and on and on and on. And I say to everybody on this call, think about how many knowledge models reside within your brain based upon all of your education, all of your experience. It's extraordinary what the human brain is able to accommodate. And that's what's called human intelligence. On the other hand, the AI engine, next slide, por favor. The AI engine is empty, nothing in there. So what we do is we provide knowledge models, okay? If the AI engine is looking at environmental documents, we inform the AI engine with metadata models relating to environment or sales and marketing, whatever the topic is, to inform the AI engine to give it a head start. And what we find is when that takes place, okay, it accelerates the entire process, okay, quite a bit. And at a certain point, you always need, okay, domain experts, okay, to customize, okay, that model. But when the AI engine uses that model as a reference, okay, it's going to come up with a few extra terms that it thinks are important. Subject matter expert's going to be able to customize the model and, proceed to, perfect it. And, to Chris's point, building a shared vocabulary within the organization. That's what these models are all about. Joel, over to you.
Thanks so much. I got a little video that I think might help illustrate this point a little bit. You may be familiar with this. It's just a short little clip. In fact, based on time, I'll just summarize this real quick. I assume everybody's probably seen Office Space. If you haven't, I'll fill you in. Here's this guy who's frustrated at work, and he's finding that there's just, it's kind of this, imagine even as a new employee, you're being asked for the TPS report, right? This idea that, what is the TPS report? People keep hammering on TPS reports, and it's like, here's some acronym, and you're not even sure like what's going on and why this demand. So in this clip, and if you have seen the video, it's this funny, silly situation where everybody keeps talking about his cover. Why didn't he put a cover sheet on the TPS report? Didn't he see the memo? But I like to take this example of the TPS report, because everybody who would even be watching this would be saying, what is the TPS report and why is it so important? And the ability to be able to actually pull up a TPS report, would be.
Hello, Peter.
Here we go.
What's happening? We have sort of a problem here.
I don't know if you guys can hear the audio.
Apparently didn't put one of the new cover
We can
sheets,
hear.
TPS reports. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that. I forgot. Yeah. You see, we're putting the cover sheets on all TPS reports now before they go out. Did you see the memo about this? Yeah. Yeah, I have the memo right here. I just forgot. But what's happening? We need to talk about your TPS reports. Yeah, the cover sheet. I know. Bill talked to me about it. Yeah. Did you get that memo? Yeah, I got the memo, and I understand the policy. And the problem is just that I forgot one time, and I've already taken care of it, so it's not even really a problem anymore. Yeah. It's just we're putting new cover sheets on all the TPS reports before they go out now. So if you could go ahead and try to remember to do that from now on, that'd be great. All right.
So I want to just kind of take that example of imagine all of the conversations that happen at work where you've been in that awkward situation where either you don't know what they're talking about or they're using acronyms, and as a new employee it's super frustrating trying to ramp up, and maybe you're scouring the intranet to try and figure out what these things are. But how much easier would your life be if when you get that memo you could simply hover over and get the definition of what is a TPS report, go see some examples of it, and so on. But again, kind of talking about the value here, what if you could explore the organization's knowledge and context and the tools you use every day? And I think that the way that Chris and Ross and CJ laid this out, it's an example of saving time from a search perspective, where it's putting information at your tips and the tools you use every day. But also think about it as well from an onboarding perspective, new employees being able to understand the culture faster and being able to get information right at their fingertips. And so I actually spent some time over the last few months digging into this and trying to distill what are some real world steps to success around Viva Topics. And I kind of put this idea of building a house together, where it's like, first off, you need to think about it from a planning perspective, and you think about planning roles and licensing. Absolutely. One of the things you'll find when setting up Viva Topics is with a trial, you can essentially get 25 licenses, and you essentially can assign those. One of the definite key lessons learned in setting this up was finding that you really shouldn't do any white box testing with Viva Topics. And ultimately what that means is you need real data, real users, or at least a handful of users who are working with documents, uploading, editing, viewing. You can't just throw a bunch of files at this thing. There's a real misunderstanding, I think, with people in terms of testing. This is unlike other applications where it does really need to be able to have, ultimately it's even best if you can have real data, but if you're going to make it contrived, it's very important that it be active collaboration. So going from the licensing to kind of that next layer of building out your solid foundation of, you need to configure the scopes and security. What are the sites that should be included? What are the permissions? Should people have view access? Should they have edit access? Who are the ones contributing and managing topics? Think about that topic center. You'll notice in the example that CJ did earlier, they were using the word infopedia. Absolutely, get creative. What should that knowledge be, so that people can refer to it and link back to it and build it as a center. In fact, one of the more recent things is being able to add it into Teams as an app, as an icon. So basically clicking right from Teams, so you don't have to even leave Teams to be able to get and then navigate your topics. Think as well about the next layer of kind of your plumbing and electric aspects of thinking about the terms and the taxonomy and linking the topics. Some of that can happen organically, but ultimately it's even better if you can actually seed things like acronyms, being able to ensure that that the information around your experts is reliable. Ensuring that the topic pages are actually built out. You can actually add templates to be able to have even richer kind of look and feel, or being able to add a little bit of company color to your topic pages. Think as well about it's not just building it and they'll come. You really should be thinking about how can we build an adoption program around this. You have those knowledge experts who can validate the topics and actually finish out some of those topic cards, ensure the definitions are correct. But as an example of it's in the tools we use every day, well, it's even better if you can actually encourage your users to start tagging information. So that can actually be really quite key as well. So a couple of kind of key questions you're asking, and I think we kind of covered a lot of this, but thinking about who are the users who should have permissions? What are the sites you want to crawl? Is there external information you want to pull in? How should this expose itself through search? What is that topic's experience? What kind of brand and name do you want to give to your topic center? Thinking about this from a roles and responsibilities perspective, we think about the viewer or the contributor or the knowledge manager, who's managing the licensing for who should be able to view this. And it is important that if you start with a specific group in the organization, maybe it's engineering, that the licenses match up, but also the scopes of the sites and the scopes of the users then line up as well. So from a view perspective, you don't have to go company wide. You actually can start with a pilot or smaller subset of your organization to be able to build out and prove out the case. And then as you decide to then license further, you can then increase that and add that knowledge into the corpus and have a really nice solid set of use case to then be able to evangelize to the rest of the organization. And absolutely, when you start thinking about what are some of the key success things you can do, right inside of search, there's a place for acronyms, and that being able to add kind of question answer pairs. But that idea of populating acronyms, those terms that are unique language to the organization. Also think about things like project names or customer names. There may be lists you've already got that can be added into the term store and then suggested to be topics. The other thing we start talking about is here are things that are unique to your organization, like departments and locations. Those things can make a great taxonomy, but also make a great way of navigating information in your organization. And then there's other things that you might think around company terms or industry terms and industry topics. And this is where WAND actually really can help out. Is they essentially, over the last 30 years of producing taxonomies, this is actually where they've actually done a lot of research and continue to update industry-based taxonomies. And one of the most recent features actually that's been released by Microsoft is this ability to create topics from SharePoint terms and taxonomy. And essentially it's this idea of you're suggesting it as a term, AI will then evaluate it and it will either deny it or it will accept it. If it doesn't find many good matches, it may decline it. If you want to add it manually, you can at any point create new topics, but this idea of suggesting a bunch from your taxonomy, it will then go through the process of identifying documents that match it and ensuring that these are things that do make sense to create topics for. So let's go ahead and jump into an example of that. So here we are in Office. And you can actually already see that I've turned on topics in this tenant. And I'm just going to cancel the control so I can really control the mouse. All right, make sure, yes. 1 second. All right, so in Office, we have, if we go into the admin, you'll see we've actually got a couple of key areas for Viva Topics. First thing is, if you're trying to set up Viva Topics, it is in setup where you configure and manage Viva Topics. In fact, you can go through the guided setup to get things going. Here we've actually got Microsoft Viva to go through, assign your licensing, all that kind of thing. The section we're looking for here is files and content. This is where the content services set of things are. You'll notice we've got automate content understanding, which is for SharePoint syntax. And then we've got connect people to knowledge with Viva Topics. This is related to Viva Topics. When we come in here, you can see this is our connecting people to knowledge. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you can manage all this. If you are still ramping up, there's links to getting more information, all that kind of jazz. If we come right into manage here, you can see this is where we can manage the topic discovery, visibility, permissions, and even manage the URL and name of our topic center. So this is essentially where the key configuration is of here. And as well, you can even decide who should be excluded, or being able to decide the configuration of topics based on AI. Exclusions from a security perspective, if there's any topics you don't want to be included, maybe there's sensitive words and things like that. And then who can actually see them. So again, if you're doing a pilot, this is where you can actually do a subset of users or a specific group and that kind of thing. The topic permissions of who can edit and create. You're going to have some organizations that are, hey, let's allow anybody to do this. There may be some environments that start from a more controlled perspective. I think that makes sense in the beginning to start with a smaller group of people who are then managing the topics. You probably don't want to start off with it being everyone. You probably want to start off with it being a small group of those people who may be responsible for knowledge in the organization and have been trained in topics, as an example. The other place where you should go to manage your topics in the admin is we want to go into the SharePoint Admin Center. And under Content Services in the SharePoint Admin Center, we have the term store. We saw a screenshot of this from what CJ was showing earlier. But you'll notice that we've got here a taxonomy of our customers and customer names. Great way of being able to seed taxonomy. So like as an example, AdventureWorks may be a company we work with, and we want to make sure that, imagine being able to, you're sending email back and forth as a new salesperson. You may not necessarily know all the customer names. Think about that. Well, being able to have a nice topic card that has a description of the company, maybe some information in there. So what we can do here is essentially request that the topic be included, and essentially it will evaluate that particular topic and then determine if it's a good match. If it's not, it will decline it. If it does, then it will accept it. So essentially, it's going to try and match it up against topics. Now, the other great thing here, I was just going to mention, is here we have like, there's some WAN taxonomies that we've imported here. And Ross will be able to show this in more detail, how they actually provide this. But the ability to import a term set. So essentially, we create a little container and we can import a term set. And I'm not going to go through all the steps here, but basically it needs to be in SCOS format or a CSV. And there are some particulars around, it'll essentially get denied if it has conflicts or if there's any problems with the term data. So it needs to be clean. The great news is that Ross and his team, they totally understand these formats and how to structure the data so that it can be imported. If you have any issues, it can be pulled right in. So basically, you can pull in your SCOS formatted CSV and just download and import that. I'm not going to do that right now because it takes a minute, but it's fairly simple to just import a term set. And then once you've now got your set of industry terms, you can then essentially set it up to then go ahead and pull in. So as an example here, we can see that this particular term set, it has been requested, and you get information about these are now available for tagging. So users can just hit a hashtag and pull those terms in. And topics can then be requested for these terms. And you can essentially go as deep as you need to for what are these terms, being able to provide definitions, and so on. So the other side of this is in the topic center. I'm just going to kind of pop over here to the topic center. And as an admin or manager of the topics, I've got this section here for manage topics. Here on the home, it's saying, hey, here's ones you're listed on. Are these correct? So these are recommendations for me. The other thing we want to see here is if I go into manage topics, you can see here's those statistics of the topics. It's great that Microsoft's got some new UI coming, but here's kind of how it's working today, where we get our most popular topics based on impressions and what's happening. We get suggestions, those things that have been published, and even capturing those things that have been removed. One thing I'm just going to take you through real quick is we can add a new topic page. I'll just do that real quick. So just real quick, if I was just going to say TPS report, and so on. And I'll just add this real quick, and you can add specific people, pin people, as search will suggest pages and topics. And here's where we connect to other related topics. We're a little bit short on time, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing this, but there is essentially a navigator here where you can pick existing topics as an example. So being able to link to other topics and say, why is it so we build out our ontology, essentially building out these linked topics for what's related. As well, we can add related SharePoint sites through search. And as it builds, it will make suggestions for this as well. And when we're done, maybe we want to add Miriam here as an example, as one of the experts, and she is the one who reviews. Things like that. Anyway, we then publish this. And the thing I was going to show you real quick is that if we go to our I'm just going to quick go over here. So here's an example of, here we are in SharePoint, and you'll notice even just the title of this article, it did recognize the Contoso is a topic, and so it's given us a topic page. If we edit this, you'll notice here, as we're writing, if we want to include a topic here, just hit hashtag, and then we can insert a topic to link to existing actually, so like say as an example, you can create a new topic or you can link to existing ones. So essentially, this is a brand new one, but you get the idea that it's suggesting topics. So we now have the ability to essentially link to existing topics. So like Fabricam, pull it right in. So, and then update the news. Now anybody who then sees the news article, just mousing over, it gives them the topic, the topic card with the articles and resources and so on. Really powerful, you know, kind of connecting your knowledge in context of what you're doing. Quite powerful. And I want to just say kind of just in brief, and then I want to hand this back over to Ross to kind of show us what Wand has been able to do and provide. But lessons learned, Viva Topics does need usage for the AI to be successful. Real simulated usage, beyond just throwing files at it. As well, at first, you may find that the terms that you add are declined. If it doesn't find enough matches or enough relevant things, but you can add them manually. So there is the ability to add new topics directly. I would encourage you to do training around hashtags. The capabilities around Word Online and Outlook Online, Yammer, Teams, these are all in different stages of release. The SharePoint pages and news are already lit up and working. And I've seen in different tenants it work differently with Word and Outlook. So depends on where you're at with the release. And then your ability to pin the topics app. Highly encourage that consumption in Teams. And as well, your topics do need curated. Make sure that you're not just, people aren't just automatically accepting everything into topics. It does make sense to ensure that they're curated and not start off with hundreds of topics that just don't make sense. And the last couple things, it may take a couple of weeks to get really good topics, and as you accept them, it will make relevant suggestions based on what's being accepted as well. So don't set your expectations too high around just, oh, it's going to look at my documents. It is the signals that happen. It's usage and consumptions, especially in a pilot environment. And just kind of ending with, when we start getting to this level where people are actually using topics, even in our chats and messages, our ability to use these hashtags, the power of this being able to come through it's really going to start to just kind of being able to connect our knowledge to our conversations and into what we're doing every day, which really is where the rubber meets the road. And let me just hand this back over to Ross.
Very well done. That was terrific. That was terrific. Great, excellent stuff. A little bit of, want to show you what our taxonomy titles are, how we deliver them, and then move quickly to a Q&A, which we're not going to have a lot of time for. But, as I said, Juan has been developing taxonomies for a very long time. The taxonomies address virtually every domain of knowledge within organizations. And we package them as well into what we call taxonomy suites. And what we like to be able to say, Joel, maybe in the next slide, is that our clients, doesn't matter what industry you're in, we have taxonomies that will address all the domains of knowledge within your organization. We deliver the taxonomies using our Juan Taxonomy Library portal. Each one of our clients gets a username, a passcode, and what this user is able to do is to go to the taxonomy tab, browse the various taxonomies. Because there's so many of them, we group them into industry verticals. And what we would say is an example for a pharma company. These are the taxonomies that will address all the domains of knowledge within your organization, not just your business activities, but management, facilities management, IT, legal, so on and so on and so forth. So these are the metadata models. This is how people organize all the domains of knowledge within drug development itself, bioprocessing, clinical studies, clinical trials. So we're able to explore the various taxonomy titles. We can then, I want to download clinical studies, and you'll see here we have synonyms. I want to download clinical studies. Click on the selected branch. I want it formatted for the modern term store, English language. Click on create delivery. Just that simple. Okay, a massive library of taxonomies. I can then go to my delivery page. It took 3 seconds to format. I can download the file directly to my desktop, and then, as Joel was showing, you can import it directly into the term store. So the way we like to see it is we start with taxonomies, import them into the term store, and then you have the option to promote them to topics. So it doesn't matter what domain of knowledge, and we're happy to, it's a very, very simple process. Joel, back to you. We're running out of time, and I know maybe we've got a few Q&A.
Yeah. In fact, while I'm sharing the screen, anybody who has any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A in the comments. And I want to just land on this slide. Essentially, and feel free to take a screenshot. Anybody who's interested in learning more about what Ross has presented here, here's some links. One of the things I want to call out is I mentioned earlier that Juan has been providing taxonomies for SharePoint for a long time. That general business taxonomy is one that is free and has been available to be used in SharePoint for a long time. I think there's a lot of people who haven't realized that, and it's been updated over time. So there's actually a SharePoint 2019 version as well as SharePoint Online. I think that's kind of a hidden gem. I don't think a lot of people realize that general business taxonomy is available. But as well, feel free to reach out to Ross. Thanks so much for hosting this today. And we'll end with some Q&A if there's any questions anybody's got.
Joel, great job. Chris, CJ, well done. Thank you very, very much. Joel, I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, thanks so much, CJ and Chris. I think this is really valuable stuff. I think it's kind of been under the radar a little bit with everything else that's going on that Microsoft's been releasing. I think this is one that it does require people to plan it out a little bit. It's not just something you want to just turn on.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Great to see you.
Thanks so much.
Have a wonderful day, everyone.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.